Welcome everyone to the last of the USBIA webinars for 2022. And my name is Gavin Atwood, and I'm the CEO of the United States Brain Injury Alliance. We have some fantastic webinars also lined up for next year, so keep an eye out for some emails to come from us, and hopefully you can join us then. But it gives me enormous pleasure to welcome to this webinar Michelle Renee Wild. Michelle is the president and CEO of Brain Education Strategies and Technology, Inc. She's a professor at the Coastline Community College in Newport Beach in Southern California and has taught there in the acquired brain injury program for over 30 years. She's also the founder CEO of the Brain Education Strategies and Technology, otherwise known as BEST, which is a nonprofit that provides free and low-cost solutions for brain injury survivors struggling with ongoing day-to-day cognitive challenges. BEST provides cognitive skills webinars and workshops for individuals with cognitive challenges, their caregivers, and the professionals who work with them. And I will be posting on the USBIA Facebook page information about a webinar that Michelle has coming up. In addition, the BEST Suite app was released to help with executive function challenges. Her materials are in use in various schools, rehab facilities, VA hospitals, and military hospitals across the country. So that said, welcome, Michelle, over to you.
Thank you, Gavin. Really appreciate it. And welcome, everyone. I'm excited to be presenting for the USBIA and am excited to share some information about apps with you. So the title for today's presentation is Using Apps Within the Brain Injury Community. And this is, hopefully this presentation will not only be useful for individuals that may be survivors, but also for family members, as well as professionals that work with survivors. So let's, this is just a quick disclosure. Gavin mentioned I am the founder and CEO of a nonprofit called Brain Education Strategies and Technology. I volunteer for that organization. I do not take a salary from BEST. All the money goes right back into helping survivors. There's several different objectives that I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up on. We're going to talk just a little bit about executive functioning challenges after brain injury, and that's sort of our foundation, in that we're then going to talk about apps that can help with some of those executive function challenges. We're also going to briefly talk about some of the accessibility features that are available on smart devices. That, again, is kind of a foundation. If you can get your devices set up so that they're effective for you with the built-in accessibility features, that can make using a lot of the apps a lot easier. And then finally, we're going to explore a variety of apps, some built into your devices and some that you can download for free or purchase, and how those individual apps can be beneficial within the cognitive rehab process. I'll mention here that, as Gavin mentioned, I am a professor, a teacher at a community college here in Southern California. So I come from an educational perspective as I'm talking about executive functioning skills, and as I'm talking about apps and stuff. I am really talking from an educator's perspective, not from a medical model. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was clear on that. So let's talk a little bit about executive functioning skills to begin with. So these are just a few of the skills that are incorporated or included within executive functioning. We've got some time management. We've got planning, memory, working memory, initiation, self-regulation is always a big one, prioritizing, organizing, and even mental flexibility. So these executive functioning skills are areas that oftentimes people struggle with. And sometimes they struggle because they keep trying to do things the way they've always done them, perhaps in their pre-brain injury life. And those same strategies, those same techniques, those same skills don't work. So one of the things that we're going to talk about is how apps and devices can be useful in this area. We'll start off with some devices that can be used to help support executive functioning. We've got the iPhone here on the left-hand side. We've got an Android phone. A lot of people ask, what's the difference between Apple and Android? Really, my personal perspective is that Apple devices tend to be a little bit better for individuals that are living with brain injury. And the reason for that is because there's a consistency across all the different Apple devices that you might have. So if you have an Apple iPhone and you have an iPad, they work almost exactly the same. And that consistency is extremely important for survivors. There's absolutely nothing wrong with Android phones or Android tablets. I have an Android tablet myself. But there are inconsistencies because there's so many different types of Android devices out there that it's very hard to have a consistent user experience across all those devices. So it used to be that Android phones were much less expensive than iPhones. Now Apple has lowered their price on some lower end iPhones that are perfectly functional for our population. So that's just kind of a general idea on the differences between Apple devices and Android devices. Again, no particular bias one way or the other than my experience has been the apps available and the consistency on the iOS devices tend to be a little bit easier for individuals living with brain injury. We also have AirPods or something like that. Noise canceling headsets can be extremely beneficial and useful. A lot of times people will put earplugs in. That is very good as well. The noise canceling headphones actually can do a little bit better job in many cases than even earplugs. So keep that in mind. In the lower left-hand corner, we have an Apple Watch or a Google Watch, whichever version you have. Having something on your wrist can also be a supportive device. It can be distracting too. So really understanding what your options are when it comes to things like Apple Watches or Google Watches and setting them up properly for you is going to be a big, big issue. We also have something called a Rocketbook. I don't know if you're familiar with a Rocketbook. It's actually a regular paper pencil kind of technology, if you will. It uses an erasable pen. It's got lines just like regular paper. You can write, you can erase, which is very nice. You can also scan using the Rocketbook app to get that information from a handwritten perspective into a digital format. A lot of times people say, I don't want to take digital notes because I really need that experience, that tactile experience of handwriting. And so a Rocketbook is actually a pretty good option in that particular case. And then, of course, we have the Echo Dots and we have the Apple HomePods. These are devices that you can just say, hey, hey, Google, do this or that. What's the weather? And as a result of doing that, you get that information. So these are all devices that are available that can be helpful with executive functioning. Then we have apps. So we've got the devices, and then you need apps to go on those devices. And so in the upper left-hand corner here, this is the Best Suite. This is the app that we as a nonprofit have created and is available for Apple, and a modified version is available for Android. We then have something, this is a Notability. It's a note-taking app. There's a comparable thing on Android called GoodNotes that is cross-platform, but it's a great opportunity to take notes electronically, and there's some advantages to that, which I'll describe as we move on. Then you have calendaring apps, both on the Apple and the iOS side, as well as the Android side, and Microsoft Outlook for calendaring as well. You've got cameras, which can be extremely helpful with executive functioning. You've got dictation. In this particular case, I'm showing the dictation feature of Siri in the lower left-hand corner. You can see that right here. Dictation is a great feature. A lot of times individuals struggle with typing after their injury. They can come up maybe with the words, but they struggle with typing in. They get so frustrated that as a result of that, they just stop using the technology. So the dictation feature, which is available on both Android and Apple devices, you just simply say, hit the microphone button, say what you want to say, and it will transcribe what you're saying into text on your screen. So that's a great feature and can be very, very helpful. You've got reminders apps, you've got notes apps, all sorts of different apps that can help support executive function. My connection with apps and executive function really is what I call the making cognitive connections approach. This is where we really emphasize the benefits of the devices as a memory or as a cognitive prosthetic. The fact that you can have this device with you everywhere you go. Most people have smartphones nowadays. They take their phones with them. They're very conscious of having their phones with them. And so this device can be a very effective cognitive prosthetic. In the making cognitive connections approach, what we do is we draw parallels between the cognitive skills, decision-making and problem-solving and organization, attention to detail, etc., with the technical skills of using the device. So for instance, if someone is entering a calendaring appointment, making sure that they're choosing the right date, that's an attention to detail kind of skill. Making sure that they put an accurate description in the title for what that calendaring appointment is, that really has a lot to do with relevant and irrelevant information. We as professionals can really help individuals living with brain injuries with their cognitive skills by using these technologies and by making that connection between the technology and the cognitive skill. Smart devices also really generalize into real life. Again, it's something that individuals have with them. It's not a piece of paper and a pencil that they are doing exercises on and then leave it at the house or in a binder. A device is something that they have with them all the time. And so it really generalizes to real life quite nicely. And then another thing is, as I mentioned, it emphasizes the benefits of apps as a tool for cognitive rehabilitation. One of the things I was working with a student today, earlier this morning, and he had his calendar and he had set up his calendar. He was working on learning how to use his calendar, but he had set it up in such a way where it was totally overwhelming for him. And so we were able to work together, explaining the cognitive skills, what went wrong, what he might want to do differently in order to really help him not only improve his calendaring, but also help him understand, what issues he might have had with the process. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is sort of getting started. Smart devices and their settings, there's a lot of accessibility that you can set up in advance. Some of these things you may already know, but I think it's worthwhile to just share these with you. If you're a survivor, going in and checking some of these things on your devices may help you a lot. If you're a professional, knowing these settings, knowing what the implications are of these settings, and then you teaching the individuals that you're working with about the settings and helping them get their individual devices set up properly, I think is going to be extremely helpful. So there are several different options. You can have, there's an appearance setting, there's a brightness setting. One of the things that Apple has, and I believe Android also has, is a light and a dark mode. You will find that some individuals, the light mode is sort of the standard mode for most iPhones at least. You may find that there are individuals due to visual processing issues post-injury where dark mode is actually a much better setting for them on a regular basis. So to simply modify that default setting to dark mode can make a world of difference for individuals in terms of how effective their devices are for them. There's also something called night shift, which allows you to set a time frame for when you want dark mode to come on and go off. So you have some control over, again, the brightness of the screen. And I think that that's a real important thing. Another option that's available within the display and brightness is auto lock. And again, all of these are available on Android and Apple devices. The screenshots I have here are for Apple, however. The auto lock is a really important one in terms of frustration. Often what happens is the default auto lock is like 3 minutes. And so if a person is not using their screen for 3 minutes, it will sort of go to sleep and then they have to open it up again. That can be very frustrating for individuals. So adjusting that auto lock time to 5 minutes or 10 minutes can be extremely beneficial. It will not alleviate, but it'll maybe lessen the frustration that individuals have with their devices and give them an opportunity to really embrace that technology. One thing to be aware of with auto lock is if you set it for too long, 15 minutes or 20 minutes, or if you have it set for never, where it's always on, that will drain the battery life of the devices. And so that can be potentially problematic. Another option that you have is the text size. So we can actually adjust the text size of the screen. For many people, the text can be so small that it's very hard for them to see. And as a result of that, they may not end up using the devices. So adjusting the text size, you can even bold the text so that it pops a little bit more on the screen. Another thing that you can do is you can zoom in on a particular, you can use the zoom feature, which is going to zoom in on the screen so that you can really see. For individuals that have visual issues, that's a really nice feature. In terms of accessibility, we've got VoiceOver, which is for individuals where it will read the information on the screen for them. It will help them navigate the screen. We also have that zoom feature that I was just mentioning. This is a picture of the controller where you can see here, I have my screen set to a regular size. If I were to slide the slider over, it would zoom in on the screen so that I would be able to only see certain portions of the screen. And then I can move around with the icons being much bigger. I couldn't grab a screenshot of that because once you do that, the screenshots all go back to the regular size screen. So, but this is where you would ultimately make that adjustment. We talked about the bold text and the larger text size. You can also increase contrast, which is an important one. You'll see on the left side of the screen here, this is the normal contrast. It's very light gray with white. So it doesn't necessarily pop. There's not a lot of contrast by default. By turning on increase contrast, you'll see the gray becomes a little bit darker and it's easier to see and distinguish fields on your screen. One other feature is the color filters. And in this particular case, you would certainly want to check with a doctor about this, but color filters can be extremely beneficial. What it is it basically puts an overlay on your screen. So if the screen is really bright, if you've been told, or if your glasses, have a blue tint or a green tint, because you've seen a neuro-ophthalmologist and they have tinted your glasses, that's sort of what happens with the color filters. It's basically tinting the screen on your device. And I have worked with individuals who have found the right color for them, and it's amazing. They just all of a sudden calm down. The brightness and the intensity of the screen goes away when you find the right color filter. So this is a feature that you may want to check out. All of this is under the accessibility settings for your iPhone. Another thing that is very interesting is there is a motion feature that is by default turned on your iPhones. And what that does is as you move your phone in your hand, there's a little bit of motion that occurs. That can be very disorienting for people, especially after brain injury and for those that have visual issues post-injury. So you can go in and you can turn that motion feature off, which I highly recommend. Another thing that you can do is you can turn on spoken content. This can be very helpful because, as you can see here in my list, I'm in a Notes app at this particular screenshot here, and you'll see I've selected a bunch of text, and I can click on or tap speak, and it's going to start speaking the text for me. So it's going to highlight the word that it's saying, and it's a way of allowing individuals to hear the text on the screen and also follow along with what is being read. That can also be extremely helpful for accessibility. I don't know if there's any questions. This is a nice breaking point. So if there's any questions in the chat, or if you have any questions about what I've just shared, please feel free to holler out.
Hey, Michelle, I'm not seeing anything. Oh, hold on. I think there may have been someone's writing it now.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, this is someone who is interested in seeing the or listening to this afterwards. And so
Okay.
it'll be posted on the USBIA website. So yeah, no, for right now, nothing that I'm seeing.
Okay, great. So let me talk now about what we call a tech, excuse me, a tech toolbox. I really recommend that individuals try to identify specific apps that they're going to use. So often what happens is we keep adding apps to our phones. It doesn't matter whether we're Apple or Android. We just keep adding apps to our phones because someone recommends something, this helped me, and so you think that you want to download it so it can help you as well. What ends up happening oftentimes is we have so many apps on our phones that we don't really know where things are. A good example of this is apps for notes. A lot of people have 3 or 4 or 5 different note-taking apps that they use, some for quick notes, some for longer notes, etc. And what happens is when you have that many note-taking apps that you're using, it gets very confusing and it makes it really hard to find what you're looking for. So we at Best always talk about the benefits of having an app toolbox. It's easier to find the information that you're looking for because you're not having so many different apps that you're using. You really identify the ones that work for you and you stick with those apps. It's less overwhelming. There are fewer apps on your home screen, which can be very nice because sometimes my home screen on my phone is very overwhelming because I have so many different apps on it. You also might want to incorporate apps that can be used for more than one thing. For instance, I'm going to show you Notability and a couple of other screenshots in just a bit. And if you can find an app that serves multi-purposes, it's going to work a lot better for you, in our opinion. It's also easier to relearn when an update occurs. I don't know if you have had this happen to you, but oftentimes after an app updates, especially for those living with brain injury, any little change in the what we call the user interface of the app can be very disorienting. And so if you're using a whole bunch of different apps and those apps are being updated regularly, there's a whole lot of relearning that you have to do. And that can be, again, very overwhelming. So if you have an app toolbox, 5 or 6 different apps that are really sort of your go-to apps that you're going to use on a regular basis for a variety of different things in your life, when those apps get updated, it's going to be less overwhelming because there's fewer apps that you have to relearn. So here are some common smart device apps, and all of these apps really work on all the different executive functioning skills that we had kind of talked about earlier. So we've got planning as an executive function skill, organization, mental flexibility, working memory, and time management. So the calendar app on your devices is a great tool for you to help with time management, to help with planning. It also works on organization. It can work on memory, of course, and then mental flexibility in terms of the possibility of which calendar should this go into if you're using multiple calendars. There's a lot of executive function that goes into using the calendar. Also with reminders, the Reminders app. The camera also has some great examples of very practical uses of executive functioning skills. Photos as well, email, notes, and even your text messages. I have grabbed a few screenshots from some of these apps, and I'll explain to you how these apps can be helpful post-injury. So here's an example of a calendar app, okay? And what I've got here is this is the calendar from the iOS devices. You'll see here, I've got my week up here at the top, and I can see all the different things that are going on today. I'm using different colors for different calendars. So green on my screen means that's my teaching job, my acquired brain injury program job at Coastline. Purple in this particular case means BEST related stuff for the nonprofit that I work on, or that I founded. And then yellow is what a family thing. So I actually have a dentist appointment later on today, but I can see that, and I'm using color as a mechanism to help me differentiate the different appointments that I have going on. That can be very, very helpful for individuals. You have to know how to create those separate calendars. And when you're creating new appointments, you want to make sure that each new appointment gets placed in the proper calendar. But in the long run, this can be a very effective tool. On the right-hand side of the screen, I have sort of a split screen view, if you will, on the calendar. I can see the month at a glance, which is very helpful. It helps orient me to where I am within the month as a whole. And I can also see those things that are happening on this particular day. So in this screen capture, you'll see I have November 9th highlighted in black. That means I'm looking at November 9th's events. And then I can see them listed down the screen. Notice that I also have the color. So color, again, for me is very important in terms of helping me orient myself to kind of what the bigger picture is, or what the intention of that particular event, the relationship for that particular event. So the calendar app, also making sure that in the title that you have, that you put into your calendar, this again is very important when it comes to orienting people. You could put doctor's appointment down, and when you look at your calendar a month from now and you see that you have to go to the doctor, if you didn't put which doctor it was for, then all of a sudden you're not going to know which doctor to go to, and that can be very frustrating. So you'll see down here, I have the name of the doctor, and this is actually a crown that I have to have put on. I've actually put that in here as well, so that I know why I'm going to that particular doctor. Doing some preparation up front in terms of adding some detail, not too much, but adding some detail can be very helpful, because now I just know that I'm going to Dr. Traban today to get my crown put on. The Photos app is the next app that addresses all sorts of different functionality for individuals post-injury. So on the left-hand side, I have my albums. You can see here I have recents. I have 10,024 pictures here. These are my calming photos. I actually have an album called Calming Photos. And in that album, I have pictures of my dog Jackson doing silly things, laying here, looking cute and adorable. So that kind of calms me down. I can go into my Photos app, I can go straight to that album, and I can then look at those images and hopefully calm myself down a little bit. You'll see here, I've got a lot of, oops, sorry. Oh my goodness, sorry about that. Let me go here. You'll see I have other different albums that are listed here. And I also have shared albums that I can share with other people. On the right-hand side, what I've done is I've grabbed this so that you can see the different media types. So in most of your devices, whether it's Apple or whether it's Android, you're going to be able to see what they call the media types. In this particular case, I have 455 videos. So if I want to quickly try to find the selfies that I've taken. I can go here because they're already pre-categorized for me. I don't have to look through 10,000 pictures to try and find my selfies. I can come to this pre-organized, pre-categorized section and be able to quickly go to all of the selfies that I have. I have 15 panoramic pictures. Instead of having to go through and look through all 10,000 pictures, I can come here and just go straight to panoramics. What this is doing is it's pre-grouping for me based on certain attributes. And so it allows me to very quickly go to the right category and not get lost and not get overwhelmed with sort of the clutter, if you will, of what could be 10,000 or more photos. You'll see here I have screenshots, 1,700 screenshots, because I do a lot of presentations and I do pictures like this. And so these are all screenshots that I have. A new component or a new feature, if you will, of the latest operating system for Apple is we now have this ability to see duplicates. So on my phone right now, I have 324 duplicate images. And I can click on this and I can then look at the duplicates and I can get rid of all those duplicates. That can be very helpful as well for organizational purposes and time management. Just looking through all the images and trying to find what you're looking for can be very overwhelming and can take a lot of time. Anytime that you get overwhelmed or anytime that it's taking you a long time to find something, that can be an energy drain for you. And so trying to figure out how can I use my device in a very efficient way can actually help with some of the neurofatigue that often people experience after brain injury when they just get overwhelmed by too much information. This next feature is the Notes app. And one of the newer features that are available in that, as you can see over here on the left-hand side, you can import pictures from your phone into the Notes app. You can also scan documents. So if you have a document that you want to scan in as a PDF, you can do that. That's very effective. You can also take photos or videos. And you can do this new thing called scanning text, which is pretty cool. So I tried to give you an example here of scanning text. This is a brochure that I have from Rocketbook. It says, "Welcome to the crew." You can see that here. What I did was I clicked on scan text. It turns on my camera. And I held my camera up and you'll see these little yellow sort of borders around the edge. I got the text that I wanted right there inside of those yellow borders. And you'll see it actually converts this document, the text from this document, into my note. So this is the live document. And this is what it would put in my note. This can save a whole lot of time and a whole lot of energy from you having to type up information that's already there on paper. So this, again, can be a very effective technique or tool for you after your brain injury. Okay, in addition to those sort of built-in apps that come with most of the devices that you probably have, there are some other apps that we highly recommend. And this is just a handful of them, but given time constraints, I wanted to make sure that we could show you a few options here. So all of these App Store apps, they're either free or they are low cost. And they address the same executive functioning kinds of issues that the other apps that we've talked about that are built in also work on. So planning and organization and mental flexibility and working memory and time management and other executive function skills as well. In this particular case, I chose 5 different apps. So the Best Suite is, again, an app that I created as part of BEST. I took the experience that I had in working with individuals living with brain injuries over my experience is now over 35 years. So I created the Best Suite, started working on it about 10 years ago. And so I took my experience and really tried to create something that would be useful for individuals. And I'll show you a couple of screens from that. Notability is a really excellent note-taking app. You can use it for doctor's appointments or school or work meetings, all sorts of different things. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Inspiration Maps is a great app for organizing your thoughts. One of the things we know is oftentimes after brain injury, it's very difficult for people to organize their thoughts. Inspiration Map makes that much easier. You can get your thoughts down on the screen, and then you can freely move them around to get them in a more organized fashion. It's a great way of preparing for writing papers for school or for work. Rocketbook, as I mentioned, is a great paper pencil kind of, it's a paper pencil device, if you will, but it also has an app that you can use that will transcribe or convert that information that you've handwritten into a digital format. And then finally, we're going to end up with something called Relax Melodies, which is, I think, a great app for calming, for relaxing, for meditation, and a variety of other things. So we're going to start with Pace My Day. Pace My Day is really designed, this is part of the Best Suite. It's really designed to help individuals pace themselves throughout the day so that they don't wipe themselves out. It's got a lot of features to it, way too many features to share in this webinar. But one thing that I did want to show you is you can see I've sort of planned my day out here. I've got several different things listed. I want to do some gardening, home gardening. I have a doctor's appointment for my mom. I want to work on some proposals, and I need to go to Costco. And you'll see that in this particular case, each one of these has an energy level associated with it. So working on grant proposals is a very high energy task for me. It takes a lot out of me. Going to Costco is a high energy task for me. I know for a lot of individuals with brain injuries, going to the market and Costco and big warehouse stores can be completely overwhelming. Taking my mom to a doctor's appointment, sort of a medium energy task. And then home gardening is actually low energy. I enjoy doing that. By laying this out and by seeing how much energy each task takes, it can give you a better day of whether or not you're pacing yourself appropriately. If I had 3 or 4 different high energy tasks and only one low energy or medium energy task for the day, that would be a cue for me to think, you know what, that's a lot. Maybe I need to adjust my day a little bit. Pace My Day has some symptom management features to it as well. But the key is really to help you identify and learn to pace yourself so that you don't wipe yourself out on a daily basis. Strategize My Life is also part of the Best Suite, and it is an app that allows you to document strategies, to categorize strategies, to take some notes down about strategies that you might use, and then also to rate how effective those strategies are. One of the things that we know after brain injury is that people don't always use strategies. They don't always know which strategies work for them and which strategies don't work for them. In fact, a lot of times individuals try to use strategies that they used before their brain injuries without the same success. And so to really document that and to be able to see which strategies work and don't work for you can, again, be very effective, can help a lot with your energy, can help with you being overwhelmed by things, etc. Complete My To-Dos is also part of the Best Suite, and it is a task management app. It has some features built in specifically related to brain injury that hopefully will help people not be so overwhelmed by the activities that they have to do. One of the key things, and this is not unique to the Complete My To-Dos app, but one of the unique things is that when you open up the app, it's got just your tasks for today. And oftentimes apps have today's tasks and all the overdue tasks and all the future tasks, and it just gets really overwhelming. And so what we wanted to do was we wanted to provide you with a place where you could focus on those tasks that are due today, so that you can really hopefully feel more productive and get more done. The last app of the Best Suite is something called Cue My List. You can use this for a wide variety of things. You'll see here we have a morning routine. You can create a morning routine and check off those items that you've completed. This helps with memory. It helps with initiation. It also has a timer built into it, so you can actually set up a certain amount of time that you want to spend on each activity, and it will cue you, thus the Cue My List name, it will cue you to move on to the next activity. You can do it for that. You can also just create a shopping list out of it. You'll see here, I have a dairy category or a dairy heading here, and I've got all my different items for my shopping list that I need. So this is also Reach My Goals. This is a goal setting app that is part of the Best Suite as well. And it allows you to create a SMART goal and then track your progress, mark things off as complete as it relates specifically to your goals. The next app is Inspiration Maps. This is the one I was telling you about. It's great for organizing your thinking. It is a what we call a graphic organizer. So it allows you to create things in a very visual way so that you can see things differently. In the example that I have here, you'll see we use this for an activity in my class called My Brain Injury. And it's looking at cognitive strengths and challenges, and it's looking at psychosocial strengths and challenges. So as a person started off with this, we just threw a bunch of things on the screen, different ideas, different things that came to mind for them. And then we were able to just simply tap and drag and organize them in a very effective way so that they can very clearly see where their cognitive strengths and challenges are and where their psychosocial strengths and challenges are. You'll notice we also used color here to help differentiate. We've got challenges in orange so that that stands out. We've got our strengths in blue. And you can also use images, not only images from within this app, it's got hundreds of different icons and images like this, the puzzle pieces and the communication, but you can also pull images in from the internet. So it makes it a very powerful app as well. You may have seen other apps that do similar kinds of things to Inspiration Maps, flow charting apps, and that kind of thing. My preference is Inspiration Maps, and the reason for that is because it's very easy to learn how to use, and it's got a lot of pre-built icons and images to help people. The next app is Notability. And Notability is, as I mentioned, a great note-taking app. A lot of times people try to take notes in something like Google Documents or Microsoft Word, or even the Notes app on your standard devices. Those apps were not really designed for note-taking in the way that most of us want to take notes. Notability, the Good Notes app that I mentioned that works on both Apple and Android, were really designed for note-taking, the way that most people want to take notes. So you'll see here, I can import images if I want. I've got a picture of myself here and of Christy, my co-founder. You can put text in it. You can handwrite notes if you want. There's a pencil tool here. You can also highlight information, specific information that you might want to stand out. You can also move information on the screen. So just because you put it in one place doesn't mean it has to stay there. When you're using something like Google Docs or Microsoft Word, it's very hard to move things around on the screen in an easy way so that it ends up exactly where you want it. And if you're using a true note-taking app, you can do that. Another feature of Notability is this little microphone here. Notability allows you to record meetings or appointments or whatever, to take notes, and your notes are synchronized with what was being said at that time in the recording. So it makes it very easy if you're going to a doctor's appointment and the doctor, you're there for 15 or 20 minutes, and halfway through the appointment, the doctor indicates that they're going to change a medication, let's say. And you're trying to write as fast as you can to get down that information, but you just can't get it down fast enough. If you're not using some kind of recording, then that information gets lost maybe. If you are using a traditional recording device, what happens is you have to find that spot in the recording, which can be very frustrating and can take a lot of time and can really zap your energy. By using something like Notability, you would just tap your notes where it says medication change, and it would take you directly to that place in the recording so that you will be able to hear in the doctor's voice exactly what he or she told you about your medication change. It's a very, very powerful app and very practical. It's something that you can use for a lot of different things in your everyday life.
Michelle, we have a question from someone who's
Uh-huh.
asking, for those who have a difficult time with the small size of a phone, for
Mhm.
example, the elderly, is there something you would recommend?
Yeah, iPads are very good. I know that they're a little bit bigger. They give you a bigger screen, but they also are, heavier to carry with you and a little bit less convenient. They do have, smaller sized iPads or Android devices. The other thing that you can do is, if the size of the information on the screen is problematic, you could use that zoom feature that I talked about with regards to accessibility. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but that can help a lot. I know also you can get the larger size phones. They're more expensive, so that's a disadvantage. But what they call the Max Pros or something like that, those larger size screens can actually be very beneficial and may, for some people, be worth the extra expense because the phones are more effective for them in that case. I hope that helps. I have two more apps that I just wanted to show you screens of, and then hopefully we'll have some additional questions. This app is the Rocketbook app. And so as you can see here, what I've done is I'm going to hold on just a second. I think you guys can see me. I'm going to hold up. So this is, sorry, let me get rid of
You're muted.
Thank you. What you can do is you can take as many notes as you want on paper in this Rocketbook, and it's going to allow you to have that information written down, but then you can take a picture of it with your Rocketbook app, as I've done here, and that converts this into a digital file. Now I can put that digital file into other apps on my devices. I can go into the Rocketbook app and I can open up any of these files that I might have. And this makes it extremely beneficial for people who are maybe a little bit less or a little bit more resistant to using the technology because they really want to handwrite things. This is a nice sort of segue from having only handwritten notes to moving more towards a digital format. There are some advantages to digital notes. Some of the advantages are, again, you'll have them with you all the time. You can have notes from 2 years ago or 3 years ago or 3 weeks ago, all on that device with you when you need it. You can also scan the notes. I'm sorry, you can also do a search for the notes. So you can type in a particular word and you can find that information. So I showed you a picture of my calming picture of my dog, Jackson. I can put in my calendar, do a search for Jackson's vet visit, and I can see all of the vet visits that Jackson has had. So I can get information about those very easily. If I were to do that on a regular calendar, I'd have to flip through pages to find it. And if it were previous years, I'd have to find another calendar to go back and look at it. So there's really some advantages to digital notes and using a device, but I totally understand that it's not the right thing for everyone. What I'm trying to do here is give you an example of what might be available, and then you're welcome to reach out. I'd be happy to talk to you individually about any of this. The last app that I wanted to talk about is an app called Relax Melodies. And this is a very interesting app because what it allows you to do is it allows you to pick and choose sounds so that you can sort of create your own mix of background noise. You can do this for meditations. You can do this for falling asleep. It has a timer. You can create, like, I really like the sound of rain and of the Indian flute. And so I can create my own music, so to speak, or my own background sounds that can help calm me, can help me sleep, can help me meditate, etc. So the Relax Melodies is, I think, a really great app for that. It gives so many different sounds. There's a free version that gives a limited number of sounds. And then you can pay for a version of it that has, hundreds of sounds, basically. So I will open it up for questions at this point. I don't know if anyone has any questions for me, but we'll open it up.
Michelle, do you happen to have a list of all of these apps that we can provide to everybody that's attending?
Sure. If you want, I can send you the presentation, Colleen, and you can go ahead and send that out to everybody. That way they'll have the screen captures and everything with it.
That would be great. Thank you.
Sure. Absolutely.
Does anyone have any other questions? You can feel free to unmute yourself and ask. Nothing?
Maybe I could ask you a couple questions then, if you don't mind, since we've got 5 minutes left. How many of you use either an iPhone or an Android? Can you give a little reaction? Raise your hand.
I have to say I was following along on my iPhone with you today. So
Okay, so quite a few people use. Are you using, I don't know if you are a professional or if you are a survivor. So are you, did you find the information that I presented today helpful? Some of the apps and how to use some of the apps, some of the possibilities that are out there. Was that helpful, or was this stuff that you already know? This is good for me to know, but it's also, I think, good for USBIA to know as well. So we're getting some provider, and this was very helpful. Okay, good. Didn't realize there was so much out there. Yeah. One of the problems, Rochelle, is that there is so much out there. There's, over 1 million apps in the App Store. Trying to find the ones that are going to be really helpful for our population is very challenging. And so that's part of what I'm trying to do, is just kind of give you a handful or a smattering of the apps that I find very helpful, and also help you understand, again, that connection between the cognitive skills that we want to be working on if we're survivors, or that we want to be helping individuals working on if we're providers. To know that there's that connection between the cognitive skills and the application and the generalization of those cognitive skills to the technology. The technology is more interesting, it's more exciting, it's more practical, and it's something that, again, most people have. So if we can tie those that cognitive skills to the technical aspects of your devices, I think that it really makes for a wonderful rehabilitation tool. Okay, great. So yeah, Angela, there are so many apps out there. I would be more than happy to share, other information with people if they want to reach out. Colleen, I'll definitely send you the slides right away so that you can get that out to the participants. And I did want to mention in the last minute or two that we have BEST is a nonprofit, and we offer webinars ourselves, free webinars on the second and fourth Saturday each month. Typically, we offer a webinar on some cognitive topic or some technology topic. We have a webinar coming up on Saturday on self-efficacy and building self-efficacy after brain injury. Self-efficacy is sort of your belief in yourself that you can accomplish a particular task. It has a lot to do with goal setting and a lot to do with sort of building your confidence up after your brain injury. Because we have holidays in November and December, we're only doing it the second week of the month. But next year, starting in January, we'll have pretty much every month, we have 2 webinars, one on the second Saturday and one on the fourth Saturday. We would love to have you join us in those free webinars. We also do workshops where we have a multi-week workshop that you are also welcome to join. They are free as well. Workshops are usually on Fridays. And we're going to be doing a variety of workshops next year. We're going to start off with a, oh my gosh, just forgot what it is. What is it? I think it's a learning styles workshop. We're going to start with that next year, but we have 5 different workshops set up for next year that we're very excited about. Most of the workshops are 6 weeks. It's an hour and a half a week for 6 weeks. And we do a deeper dive into a lot of these topics in a very practical way. And we try to integrate technology into those as well.
Michelle, is there registration required for any of your webinars and workshops?
Yeah, if you'll go to our website, bestconnections.org, and I think Gavin said he would send out a link to the webinars. If you go to our homepage, you'll see there's a solutions option in the navigation, and you'll see all of the workshops and all of the webinars will be posted on those pages. You can also sign up. We don't spam anyone. We don't send out a whole lot of emails, and we don't share any information with anyone. So if you want to scroll down on our homepage and sign up for a free article on cognitive rehabilitation, Introduction to Cognitive Rehabilitation, you can get on our mailing list, and from there you'll get notified every time that we have a workshop or a webinar coming up. So thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity to share information with you guys. And thank you, Colleen and Gavin, for the opportunity to work with USBIA. I'm so excited for this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a great presentation. And just as a reminder to everyone, will be this has been recorded, so I will send the link out to everybody, and I will include the slides, if you don't mind, Michelle, sending those
Absolutely.
over, and I'll also include the link to your website so that everybody has that as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. If you have any questions at all, my email is on the slides. You can certainly reach out to me, and I would be happy to connect with any of you to answer questions or collaborate. If you're a professional and you're looking for collaborations, I would love to do that as well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Michelle.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.